What's up, Starcraft fans? Today we're doing the tier list for One for All on Temple of the Past. Brian, let's hear the mutation.
Temple of the Past is a defense of the central temple from enemy waves. You win if it survives, you lose if it is destroyed. Enemies may transform upon dealing damage. They also get buffs from hybrids. Hybrids reduce damage if they are escorted.
Alright, we have Joni and Edwin home in the call with us today. How are you guys?
Doing pretty well. How are you?
Barely awake. How are you? Joni, how do we rank the commanders this week?
So, I universally agreed to be a really good mutation this week. There is a wonderful synergy at play here, which means that you need to do everything in the right order pretty much all the time. The key to this one really is being able to do like vast amounts of splash damage or having such impeccable micro that you can sort of target fire individual units down without any dramas and carry you through. I think pretty much everything else basically goes without saying in terms of like durability, survivability of units, etc. So yeah, it is in terms of it executing all of that whilst not being overrun by transmuted hybrids.
What do you think, Edwin home?
Yeah, this is a fun one because, some weeks it's very BS-y kind of, it's like a very annoying mutator. This one, it's tough but fair, It's going to be, I think, a pretty fun one overall. As long as you have good splash damage and you don't target down the big guys first, you should be fine.
Alright, let's begin. Abathur, where do we have him?
Abathur, as long as you're careful with your biomass farming, shouldn't have issues with transmutation too much. Even if units evolve like once while you're leading them to the toxic nests, which again, you're going to have a bit of trouble with because it is temple. Then you should be fine. I'd typically just build a spine crawler and break the rocks and then start farming. But you don't have to. The farming will be slowed down by that more than the transmutation, really. Once you can get up and get going as Abathur, he'll do really well because transmutation only works if units are attacking, and Vipers just say no attacking, so there's no transmutation. So as long as you can get there, I think he'll do pretty well. Getting there could be a little tough because of the map more so than the mutator, really. So I had him in B tier.
B tier. What do you think, Joni?
Yes, I had very similar thoughts. I have learnt from past experiences because obviously learning is the fruit of life, and fortunately for me, doing tier lists with you two means that I have started using Vipers, because as a bad StarCraft 2 player, spellcasters are not really in my default wheelhouse. However, they absolutely come in clutch here. Like ET said, you completely nullify one of the mutators when your opponent can't attack. So very, very useful indeed. Outside of that, I think for me, P2 creeper hosts, swarm hosts, I did that last week as well. P2 swarm hosts on this map are basically a given because they can get around so quickly. So making that, exactly as ET said, that sort of slightly problematic. You should be relatively off to the races. Toxic nests absolutely come in clutch here due to the splash damage they do as well. So I actually had Abathur in A tier. I think he's not S tier, since there is a consistent level of challenge throughout this for him.
What do you think about A tier, Edwin home?
Yeah, I think that's fine. I guess there's also, I forgot to mention, swarm hosts. Once you have 5 to 10 powered up swarm hosts at each ramp, it actually doesn't matter how many hybrid behemoths there are, really. You're just going to kill them all anyways.
The Pikai strategy.
Yeah, so, that's probably fine, honestly. Yeah, I think A tier is fine.
All right, both of you say A tier. Let's put Abathur at A tier. Prestige-wise, second one? Or no prestige?
Probably second one.
Second one? Okay.
I think for my money, you want that quick movement of swarm host.
All right.
Either way,
makes
it's fine,
sense.
I think. But yeah.
Moving on, Alarak. Where do we have him?
We are back to one of those weeks where Abathur and Alarak, sometimes for totally different reasons, sort of coexist in the sense they are comparably powerful commanders. Personally, I found that the control required of Alarak's army this week is a little bit more than normal. With that being said, what he does do is he does put out massive amounts of splash damage in a manner whereby you can use the commander unit itself to keep enemies off both Alarak and his army. So totally sort of dealer's choice, really, in terms of what you choose to tech into. Personal suggestion would be a combination of Ascendants and Destroyers, because then you are just putting out ludicrous amounts of splash damage throughout, partly because it's blindingly obvious, but also partly because it does give you then that mobility around the map with your forces as well. But yeah, I had him in A tier as well. I suspect he's probably slightly more borderline A tier than a relatively similar sort of difficulty on both.
What do you think, Edmund?
I think he probably has a better early game and a worse late game, probably to about about balances out equally. Because, I mean, once you get up to late game with Abathur and you can just hit B and click a few times and suddenly the enemy literally can't do anything, it's it's about as good as you could hope for in the later stages of the game. But powered up Ascendants are really good as well. Yeah, I'd say Ascendants, you just kind of go with those. I don't know if I'd make Destroyers just because generally when I'm making Ascendants, every single mineral could be poured into Supplicants at that point and power up my Ascendants even more, which I think is probably better than Destroyers, but you could do both as well. I had him in B, but I'm fine with A as well.
All right, for the record, I don't know what B is supposed to be because I use different set of
Blinding
hotkeys.
Cloud.
Oh, yeah, okay.
A blinding cloud.
Because I play Cloud, so it's disabling Cloud for me, but okay, that's fair. Okay, A for Alarak then. Prestige-wise, third one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Moving on. Arcturus, where do we have him?
Arcturus is in a similar position. He does have Earth Splitters, which are pretty good, but it's a little hard to get a lot of Earth Splitters down on this map in a convenient spot that isn't body blocking literally everything, and you don't have a ton of room because of the temple in your main base, but you can get those down. If you toxic tyrant the attack waves and they never even see your units, then they have nothing to hit to transmute, so that's pretty good. Bunker repair is pretty good. You have good sources of splash damage in the Earth Splitters and your tanks and the explosives if you go P3, and your top bars are good for stalling and killing absolutely everything, so he's very, very good. I had him in A, but I could definitely see S tier.
What do you think, Joni?
I was the other way around. I had him in S tier, but I can definitely see A tier. I think that ET's voiced a lot of my concerns with Arcturus this week, and I'm sort of now leaning more towards A tier, really. I think the biggest consideration for me on this one with Arcturus is exactly like ET said. It's getting everything down in a manner whereby it can be at its most effective in the right places where it's needed, and making sure that it has that effect. I personally would go P3 over P1 on this one, purely because I think exploding troopers do make a bit of a difference in terms of just shoring up that back line of your defense. Arcturus for me is one of those commanders where my reticence primarily around putting him like solid S tier is that I don't think he's got much of a rescue mechanism if things start spiraling. This map is one of those ones that if you don't have that means of really piling the damage on to potentially a little hybrid train, it can pretty much wreck your setup. And as ET said, Arcturus's setup is kind of critical to success here. So yeah, I think I will probably plump for A tier on this one due to the slight sort of mechanical and logistical complexity of setting him up.
All right, both of you had him in A tier. Let's put him in A tier. That's not my personal experience with Arcturus, but both of you said A tier, so let's have it that way. Moving on, Artanis. Where do we have him? Oh, third prestige, by the way.
So Artanis has again, sorry.
Third prestige. Artanis, where do we have him?
Yes, sorry. Oh, sorry, I thought you meant for Artanis. I mean, yes, you're correct. Third prestige for Artanis as well. You need to be able to drop Archon dudes on this mutator. They will deliver significant sort of splash damage, etc., and get you out of sticky situations as and when they're required. Artanis does have Artanis problems on this mutator in the sense that realistically you're looking at utilizing Storm and it's fine, but it's not great.
Storm?
Yeah, I think realistically you need to be deploying Storm on this, particularly against air comps. You know, you need that splash damage to be thinning out waves prior to hybrids getting in there. E3 is going to do a lot of work. Archon dude drops, etc. Guardian Shell's going to do a lot of work. And C tier, I think he's pretty bang average. He'll hold his own, but it'd be tough to do much more than that, I think.
What do you think, Edmund?
Yeah, the problem with Artanis is his best strategy is Mass Dragoon, and in this mutator, that's probably not going to do very well because you do need the splash damage. High Templar are just so squishy, though, that with Transmutation, you risk a very quick losing of your entire army if you're not very careful. And as soon as they start getting a hybrid wave going, High Templar go from being useful to completely useless because a Storm does basically nothing to a Behemoth. So that's a little unfortunate. I almost think, like, if you're against a ground comp, maybe Mass Immortal would be your best bet. And you kind of just hope you can punch through the hybrid train because Immortals are pretty good there if there is a hybrid train and ideally you just kill everything with the Immortals and Archon drops in the meantime. By any means, I'm fine with C tier. I think C tier is probably fair enough.
Are we not missing, or maybe it's just me? I think we should at least mention that we should use Shield Overcharge because that literally prevents transmutation. Or is that not a thing? Is that not relevant here?
That's true. I mean, Shield Overcharge
Sorry,
is good.
you are totally correct. I meant to say Shield Overcharge when I said Guardian Shell.
Oh,
Sorry,
okay.
that's my
That makes sense.
mistake completely. But yes, Shield Overcharge is great and does prevent transmutation. I think that my prioritize putting energy into Archon dudes. You'll still have enough left over due to the cooldown, but I think Archon dudes need to be the real priority because they are the one capability that he's got, which is absolutely able to completely thin out an enemy wave prior to it getting to your army.
The other problem with Shield Overcharge is on P3 this week with this map in particular, you will have multiple occasions where there are 2 attack waves coming from each side, and it's targeted at that point, so you're either helping yourself or your ally not get a hybrid train. And let's be honest, your ally is probably getting a hybrid train when you're Shield Overcharging yourself, so that is a bit of an issue.
A little bit. Okay, so C tier for Artanis. Prestige-wise, third one.
Yeah.
Dehaka, where do we have him?
I think Dehaka is really quite good. He has Dehaka, he has pack leaders, Glevig and Mervar in particular, although Dekron is also quite good against hybrid trains themselves, but Mervar obviously just shuts units down from attacking at all, and Glevig just burns everything in a line, and this map is 4 big lines, so do the math. You also have pretty good units in the form of Tyrannosaurs or Guardians or Creeper Hosts, really, to deal some very good splash damage as well. Guardians require a bit more micro, but I think they'd be pretty good here, honestly, depending on the comp you're up against. Creeper Hosts, obviously, always great, so, well, pretty much always. So I think he's really good. I had him in S tier.
S tier, what do you think, Joni?
Yeah, I also had him in S tier. Glevig, from my point of view, as already pointed out, is sort of MVP of everything this week. Like, give him his own commandership. Like, it just... Yeah, very, very convenient to be able to take out an entire path's worth of units, buildings, the whole works in one flaming breath. One thing I would add to what ET said is that actually I think Mutalisks are pretty useful against this mutation as well. Personally, I would possibly avoid Creeper Hosts quite as much this week due to the fact that they do have a propensity, unless you are going to manually take control of them each time, it very easy to end up sort of wasting an entire wave of explodey locusts on a hybrid where it's not going to get any damage done. So I think if you are going to use Creeper Hosts, be careful to manually control them. Mutalisks, I think, are pretty good on this, as are Tyrannosaurs. So absolutely got a smorgasbord of options available to him. S tier from my point of view.
All right, S tier for Dehaka. Prestige-wise, second one?
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Fenix, where do we have him?
Phoenix is a slightly double-edged sword this week because even using P2, the standard tactic of diving everything in or diving all of your hero units in head first and then replacing them when they die has the implicit sort of element to it that the enemy is going to put some damage out on you. So yes, entirely feasible to simply operate on the basis of like looking to out damage the enemy, but what it does then mean is that your hero clump is returning back to itself in trickles, diluting its efficacy against units which are slowly transmutating into more powerful units. So in principle, what Fenix does is great because he basically does put out big amounts of generally splash-oriented damage. There is a significant sort of shortcoming to that this week, however, which is what I've just sort of described. So use of the Fenix suit itself will compensate for that an awful lot, and it is really useful to have that sort of emergency button that you can press. I would probably be inclined to reserve the Dragoon suit and reserve its energy first and foremost for those sorts of situations where things are risking spiraling out of control. Drop the Dragoon suit, overpower it, and off you go. I think Fenix is good and relatively uncomplicated, but by no means unproblematic. I had him in B tier.
B tier. What do you think, Ebenholm?
Well, I do have to do a slight correction for Johnny. Double-Edged is not actually a mutator this week, but...
Boom, roasted.
No, just kidding.
Sorry, did I say double-edged in there somewhere?
You said it's a double-edged
I said
sword.
oh, okay. Oh, I see the games we're playing.
He's trolling you.
Yeah, I think part of the champions dying is actually somewhat to his advantage in that a big problem you can have with transmutation with certain commanders is that a transmutation is guaranteed when a unit dies. So the fact that you only have 7 units to die at a time means there's not that many transmutations happening, if you think of it that way.
Listen,
But
Kalarian.
yeah, true. The Caldalis is always a thing, and he's good at killing the little units here. So as long as you micro him and don't have him attacking a hybrid, you'll do pretty well. Even if you have him attacking a hybrid, the splash damage would probably still do okay for a little bit. I think he's okay. I had him in B tier as well.
All right, both of you say B tier. Let's put Fenix in B tier. Have you guys considered that the Arbiter's map might be actually low key one of the MVPs here? Because if you've got an out of control hybrid wave, you can freeze half of it and then just clean up the other one. Just saying.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Yep. I did think of that while Johnny was talking, but I was too busy thinking double-edged. So to my mind.
Who cares about being helpful? It's all about jokes.
It's more important to keep the snark in
Much
mind
more
than it is
Exactly.
the actual useful points for the audience. Okay, that's priorities. All right.
Priorities. Moving on. Han in the Horner. Where do we have him?
Han and Horner is, in my opinion, not good this week. You have multiple issues, like what if there's an air comp, transmutation air comp, and very bad. What if there's any comp with like big beefy units, like a mech comp or something like that, where your Reapers are not going to be killing them particularly quickly. You do have decent splash damage as long as they're not air in the form of bombing platforms. Your top bars are fairly good, but their cooldowns are ridiculously long, so they're not going to come up that often. And if you do get a hybrid wave, what are you killing the hybrid wave with?
Power of love,
I guess. Yeah, it's the power of love and Han and Horner. So yeah, it's. I don't think it's going to be a very good week for Han and Horner. I had them in E tier personally.
E tier. What do you think, Joni?
Yes, I think ET sort of summed it up at the beginning when he started listing the scenarios in which different comps are problematic for them, and then basically listed all of the comps and was like, these are all a problem, which is entirely the case. Like, they're just not going to have a good time regardless. Play P1, it is better. In this situation, P2 is absolutely a trap. You simply are not outputting enough splash damage on P2 to get this done. I would suggest that playing some traditional style combination of chucking a load of mag mines at the problem, followed up by Hellbats, Hellions, Widow Mines, like everything that outputs as much stuff as possible. And as a result, you are left with no really good means of doing the stuff you need to for this mutator in the right order before you get sort of slaughtered. So yeah, highly problematic. I had them in E tier as well. I think this is going to be a super rough ride for anyone that picks Han and Horner this week.
All right, both of you had him in E tier. Let's put him there. No prestige recommendation because E tier is considered bad. Moving on, Karax, where do we have him?
Karax is not considered bad this week. Transmutation becomes a really good mutator to play against when you can sort of delete most of the enemy forces before they even see you. So P3, I think, goes without saying. Prioritizing Spear of Doom cooldowns. I suspect that someone like Tutu has probably soloed this without even building anything. Like it is, I suspect, feasible. Like maximizing Solar Lance, getting the Bernie Groundy at early days is absolutely a priority. And any mutational stuff which for whatever reason does happen can be mopped up pretty quickly using Orbital Strike. Goes without saying, I suspect that backing that up should be a load of static. So I've got him in S tier.
S tier.
Also very, very viable. So yeah, fine.
What do you think? E tier HH, which is totally your name now, by the way. I changed it. Yeah,
nice.
it now says E
yeah,
tier,
I
HH.
apologize in advance for this, but I have to say it, given the double edge comment. But I do have to correct Johnny. He said it was going to be a rough ride with Han and Horner, but Rough Rider is actually a Raynor prestige. So I just need to throw that out there. So. Anyways, the Karax is pretty good here. I will say as well, I don't think you could not build anything because you do have to build some stuff to get the Bernie Ground upgrade on the Solar Lance. So that alone would sort of impede that. But besides that point, they're very good. You can build cannons, you can build mirages, you have top bar. So S tier.
You said S?
Yes, S tier.
Okay, S tier for sorry. Prestige, my third one. What? I've had 3 hours of sleep. Why would you do this to me? Oh my Donnie.
Sounds like you've upgraded to one of those desks with a treadmill underneath, and you've just gone for a run whilst we've been talking.
Yeah.
I'm just dying out here. My Donnie. Okay. S tier for Karax. Third prestige, right?
Yes. Prestige.
All right. Moving on. Kerrigan. Where do we have him?
Kerrigan has the problem where basically all you have is Kerrigan, and so as soon as you get like a hybrid train going, you don't really have a great way of dealing with that. You could go like Mass Ultralisk, I guess. In theory, like Mass Muta is probably pretty good depending on the unit comp you're up against if you're not getting a lot of splash damage. Muta is generally one of the problems on maps where you're clearing more because there's basically always Vipers and High Templar and Infestors sitting in bases that you're going to go clear, but on attack wave maps, there's some comps where you basically don't have to deal with any of that at all. And they do deal splash damage in a way that's really quite good. So if you could get to those, they'd be okay. In theory, you know, like Lurkers up on the high ground with the Malignant Creep bonus, not necessarily P1, although you could go P1 here because, again, I think you probably want a Mega Worms purely for stalling. You don't need them as much for mobility because it is, you know, a defense map, but you still need a little bit of mobility for the multi-prong waves. So it's okay. I think she'll pull her own weight, you know, Artanis style. So I'd have her in C tier.
C tier. What do you think, Joni?
I was slightly more optimistic about her purely because I think she's got lots of different potential variations of playstyle here, none of which make her anywhere near sort of S or A tier, but all of which are viable enough and powerful enough that realistically she does have like answers in a way to this. I'm a big fan of P2 Kerrigan. I just think it's quite fun to play sort of Folly of Man. So, and her zappy effect on that is really, really useful for thinning stuff out on this, in addition to the stun effect, which again means that they're, you know, for a very brief period of time, not outputting damage. So I'd be personally inclined to play P2 on this one. With that being said, obviously fully powered up immobilization wave is also incredibly useful on this because again, it has the same effect of thinning out enemy compositions, etc. I just think that because of the recharge time on this map, with the manner in which waves do come at you relatively thick and fast from, in a lot of instances, diverse corners of the map, you're probably better off having slightly less bang for your buck every now and again and a little bit more consistency and mobility there at the same time. Totally agree with what ET said in terms of Lurkers are really good for this map because it's all in straight lines. You throw a few Mutalisks in there as well to deal with some air stuff if you want to, but again, realistically, P2 kind of has that covered to a certain extent. So yeah, I had her in B tier. I think she's not great, but certainly sort of versatile and good enough. And a point like over Artanis, she does have a hero unit. You just need as a commander to keep it alive.
Yeah, okay, that's all fine. Except you never throw in a few Mutalisks. If you throw in a few Mutalisks, that's gonna be a few hybrids coming to your base. You either go a lot of Mutalisks or no Mutalisks. No in between.
Yeah, I was more going for a few Lurkers and lots of Mutalisks, but I think realistically with her, yeah, you're probably going to want to go heavily into one thing, dependent on whether it's an air comp or not, realistically.
Yes, and also don't go Mutalisks if you're fighting against stuff like Science Vessel or Storm or
Corsairs,
Vipers or
Corsairs.
Yeah. So yeah,
aka motor comps, unfortunately. Yeah, I think I'd probably say C tier because of air comps. You know, it's going to be really tough to deal with air comps because your options are Mutalisks, which die to things like Corsairs and a lot of the other splash damage that air comps generally have, or Hydralisks, which are very light unit that will die and cause transmutations very easily as well.
Or what if you just throw Overlords at the air units and then let them transmute into ground units and then have your other stuff finish them off?
True, I suppose.
Except if they have Dude Lords.
Yeah, I think it's probably still here.
Okay,
I'm pretty happy with that. It's not worth, and I think it is the perennial with her that the air is the problem. So no, I'm happy enough with that. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, C tier for Kerrigan. Nova, where do we? Oh wait, second prestige for Kerrigan, or anyone that's not.
If anyone that's not first, I actually kind of think all of them are very viable this week. I think
guess
even first, like
you can do malignant creep.
Given what we said against air comp,
pretty effective.
Yeah,
they're all equally C tier.
Why not? Give it a go.
They're all mid.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Moving on.
Hey, Hunter Horner wishes they had one mid one. So
there are two of them. Moving
Yeah.
on. Nova. Where do we have him?
Right, Nova is definitely blonder this week. The question is how much so. The problem from my perspective is I'm not especially blonde because British summer simply hasn't happened. So I will
Oh, you
attribute
want
most
summer?
of my review
You want
here
summer?
to...
I have a very nice place where you
do.
can have all the summer you want, all year long, every year.
That's all I'm asking for. It's mid-June and it's raining where I am. It's been a massive washout.
Actually, it's
But,
been raining here too, but it's still really hot.
So I think with Nova, I'm perfectly willing to attribute a lot of what I'm about to say to my own issues. I personally think that she's great. She's got a toolkit. Air comps are going to be a problem. Griffin Airstrike is going to be your friend here in terms of if you hit stuff as it spawns with Griffin Airstrike, you have done your job in terms of thinning out a wave enough to then let Liberators, tanks, whatever you choose, pick the rest of it apart and you'll be absolutely fine. With that in mind, I quite like playing P3 here because having the additional nuke cooldown, the ability to stand in the middle of nowhere and simply use Nova to get vision, I think personally is quite a good thing. I had her in B tier because I basically am not good enough to come up with a better way of playing it. So I was sort of very, very receptive to hearing from people who are better at this game than me and what they would do instead.
What do you think, Eppenholm?
So I do think the main problem is air comps because you don't have great splash damage against those. If you're not against an air comp, I don't know about P3 because Shotgun Nova is a great way to go in and clear out everything except the hybrid with 2 quick shotgun blasts. But the problem then is, what if it's an air comp? Well, I guess eventually it'll be a ground comp. But once it's hybrid behemoths, the shotgun is not as useful. So that's a bit of an issue. Yeah, spider mines are good. You could go tanks and like liberators actually do kind of. I mean, maybe literally the play is like get them all to be hybrid behemoths so my liberators can kill them while they're trying to kill some raven turrets underneath. So realistically, she probably has an easier time once the air comp is turned into hybrid behemoths.
Makes sense.
That's like what you're waiting for. You play with a Zagara, you have them send in Zerglings to turn everything into behemoths, and then you kill it all. It's the perfect crime. So yeah, I think she'll probably be fine. I didn't think she was great, so I had her in B tier.
B tier? What do you think about B tier, Joni? B for blonde. Hey.
I think that's what I said as well. I'm super happy with that. I was
all right.
To be honest, I'm just relieved that the gaps in my game haven't been sort of revealed and torn asunder, and that she's not actually an S tier commander, and I'm just too rubbish to have worked it out.
That's what the comments are for. Okay, it'll happen. Don't worry. Trust.
Yeah.
Yeah, telling me how P3 Hardened Horn is S tier. I'm just not doing it properly.
Yeah, actually, the player's second prestige, the second prestige Nova. That's the real play here. You just keep teleporting away, and they'll never transmute. They'll just whack the temple, and then you'll survive very happily. Yeah, Nova B tier. You said third prestige.
I would say first. I think you need the shotgun.
Personal
I
preference,
do love the nuke.
I
but I think
totally
you need the
appreciate
shotgun.
IP1 super viable too.
Yeah, both of you talked over each other, so I'll translate for you guys. They are saying that Nova's terrible. No, don't use Nova. Just kidding. Yeah, just use first prestige. It's probably better. Moving on, Raynor. Where do we have him?
Well, Raynor is going to have a rough rider this week. He's very similar to Han and Horner, except he does have bunkers with repair, which is nice. And in theory, like mass battle cruiser, once you get up to it, would probably be fine against most comps. So if you can make it that far, he'll probably be fine. I think he's slightly better than Han and Horner, but not much. So I had him in D tier.
D tier. What do you think?
Spider Mines.
Yeah, what do you think, Joni?
I think your chances of getting to mass battle cruiser is basically zero. Yeah, I'm basically looking at standard Raynor things here. For a standard Raynor player, I'm not talking about Lila sort of erasing bases from the back and doing all this jazzy stuff that none of the rest of us can do. So sort of spawn camping with spider mines, which is absolutely fine until you get an air comp, and then it sort of breaks down a bit. Bunkers, tanks, Vikings if you need them, like dependent on the comp, etc. But the reality to it is it's going to be really, really difficult to stop stuff doing damage and transmutating and then you've got Raynor issues of the fact that his units just aren't very good compared to everything else. The top bar could well do a decent amount of work here, and I think I would probably prioritize building of like vultures, tanks, etc. Probably despite using bunkers to a certain extent with P3 in order to get those increased top bar cooldowns, but none of it's going to be easy. I had him in E tier. I think, I couldn't differentiate him enough from Hardened Horner to put him in a different tier, so I'm sort of happy to chuck that back to ET and see what he views on that.
What do you think about E tier, Edwin Home?
I think even putting aside the here's the thing to think about, right? Like, assuming your ally is able to handle the early game, which one's more useful at that point? If Raynor's allowed to build his BCs, he can at least be useful. I don't think Hardened Horner is going to be that useful in the later game as well. And also, spider mines and repair on bunkers are two big things that Raynor has that Hardened Horner just don't. So I would say there's a significant difference between the two.
But Han has purple hair.
You know what? Like, I mean, yeah, I don't disagree with that. I was viewing it in terms of I think Han and Horner are basically stronger in the early game and that Rain is stronger in the later game. But yeah, sort of the logic stacks, I think. So no, I'm happy to bend on that. Ultimately, it's D and E tier at the end of the day. So yeah, I'm not gonna give Raynor any more of a kicking than he normally gets. So happy with D tier.
Just some regular kicking for Raynor, not the extreme kicking.
Just the kicking he deserves, nothing more.
All right, moving on. No prestige because D tier 600 bad. Stet boy, where do we have him?
Not in D tier or E tier, or even C or B or A tier.
F tier.
Super Gary in F tier.
Yeah.
Super Gary with P2 comes equipped conveniently with the perfect device of the Igor to deal with this mutator in the sense that it kills things in exactly the right order and also gives Super Gary enough time to get out of the way so he doesn't take any damage. So basically, as stuff come down, chuck 2 Egorbs, obviously remembering to space them out because the effects don't stack.
Yes.
By the time you've hit any wave with 2 appropriately spaced out Egorbs, you're not going to have very much left, and everything else that is left is going to be a hybrid. So it's not going to matter too much. So he is extremely good. He's basically perfectly suited for this map in the sense that he's got like as much mobility as is required to compensate for stuff coming down your lane, stuff coming down your ally's lane, and anything else you've missed in the proceedings as well. And he's also got really handy stuff like the shield, not shield overcharge, the overpowered Stetlight with green zone, providing you with a little shield, which makes the rest of his units great, etc. Yeah, I have probably banged on for far too long. It's stoling the virtues of someone that we all know is very good anyway, but yeah, he's very clearly S tier.
What do you think, Edwin Helm?
Yes, I think he's quite good. You know, social distance your Egorbs, and you make Lings, and then even if the Lings die to the Behemoths, all that does is refund half the Ling and buff Gary's attack speed so he kills the hybrid that much faster. So it's kind of a win-win losing your units anyways. So yeah, I had him in S tier. Very, very good.
All right. I like how you mentioned the green zone studlight thing for Stetboy, but we didn't mention the defensive drone for Nova. Very sad. Moving on, Stukov. Hey, where do we have him?
Stukov is fine here. You can't go P3, so you'll go P1. And if you don't know why you can't go P3, then I recommend you to try it, and you'll find out. And the P1, though, you can go like Mass Diamondback, you can have some tanks, and you'll be just fine against an air comp. You can go Mass Liberator. Liberators are pretty good against Transmutation in the air comps because they just don't take much damage once they're attacking, so that's good. And if you're against a ground comp, you kind of just kite your way up this straight line with your Diamondbacks, and the slime will kill them all. So it's okay. I had him in C tier. I could kind of see B, but I had him in C.
What do you think, Joni?
Yeah, I had him a little bit lower than that, but operating on exactly the same logic. Very pleasingly, from my point of view this week, yeah, P3 absolutely is a trap. If you normally play P3, I strongly recommend you to try it, and you'll see what you've been doing wrong all these years. I had him in D tier with the view that I would sort of tip him into C tier if required. So I suspect we found a middle ground there. I found that, yes, using slime trails is useful. Does it help thin out an air comp? No. So I felt that this week, fully appreciating that Diamondbacks can deal with air, that he was pretty clunky to use against air. Do see, Liberator usage if you want to, etc. So I'm happy with C tier. Yeah, yeah, he's fine. He's not great, but he's very, very workable.
All right, sounds fair. Stukov, C tier. Swann, where do we have him? Oh, first
So-
prestige for Stukov, by the way. Swann, yeah.
Yes, Swann also first prestige. I think this week it's not my preference to play. I like playing P0 or P2 with Swann because I like having his top bars, and I think that it is on this specific mutation. I think you really need the splash damage of the drill. Like it does what you want it to. Kind of similar to the Igor situation with Stetmann. However, there is a few significant shortcomings that, floating factories to give you vision does give the enemy something to hit if they can hit air, which does cause some problems. The drill simply doesn't do as much damage as you might want it to, so stuff is not dying as quickly as you want. He does have a decent off static to fall back on. I totally agree with Tutu's analysis of the Karax situation. Just position the static on the ramps and be done with it. You can push out with a small hit squad of wraiths or, again, floating factories straight in. He's fine, and he's got the tools, and he's sort of it's quite difficult to die with him, but at the same time it's also not very difficult for things to spiral, if that makes any sense at all. It's sort of quite easy to not get a lot done and end up in a bit of a stalemate. I had him in B tier. I think he's fine, but he's not brilliant.
Okay, what do you think, Edwin Helm?
I think it would have been nice if the laser drill could have spawned on the top of the pyramid of the temple, so that when you concentrated beam, it would go perfectly down each
Oh
avenue.
yeah, it would be so nice.
So that's my main critique. The
Blizzard, get on it.
I think P1 would be fine. Here, mass wraith, once you get it up, you don't really care about hybrid trains, and then just some turrets at the top of the ramps is going to kind of handle everything. So I think P0, P1, or P2 is probably fine here. And I think he's pretty good with all three of those. So I'd put him in A tier personally.
What do you think about A tier, Johnny?
My perennial concern with mass wraiths is that, yes, they're brilliant once you've got them up and running. They take a long time to get up and running, and because you're having to divert all of your mineral cost into getting them up and going, like, I reckon the breakpoint for maths wraiths is about nearly 150 supply, around the point at which where they become kind of like really undeniably like this is going to kill everything without taking any damage. So I specifically wonder with this mutator whether, particularly if your ally's not pulling their weight, I think is the one for me on this. Is the ramp going to be super tough if you're not playing P1? That would be my concern that would keep him out of A tier.
Well, what do you think, Abathur? Does that keep?
It sounds like you answered your own question. If you're concerned about the ramp, play P1 and you'll be fine. So that would be my main argument back, I guess. I think you build turrets until you've got a decent chunk of turrets at the main ramp, and then you can build more at each other ramp when it comes time, and you can still get wraiths up pretty well in the meantime. If you're not playing P1, you will have concentrated beam decently often. It's like 3 minutes on the cooldown, something like that. So
like that.
It's pretty fast.
Yeah, two and a half, or something like that. Yeah.
So it's pretty fast. Even without P1, the laser drill still does put in work, and your turrets do repair themselves. I will take back, don't go P0, go P1 or P2. There's basically no reason to ever go P0 when P2 exists, because if you're going wraiths, you're never going to run out of gas regardless, and that's not even with building gas drones. So yeah, go P2 or P1, and I think you'll be at least A tier. I think he's pretty good.
All right, yeah, okay with A tier?
I put it this way. I strongly suspect that any deficit that ET and I find here is a skill deficit rather than a commander deficit. We're both doing the same thing. I suspect he's just executing it better than me. So I'm perfectly happy with A tier. Swann has got the tools. Yeah,
he does. It's on its belt. A tier for Swann. First prestige or second prestige. Moving on, Tychus. Where do we have him?
Tychus is generally really good. He's got great splash damage when in the form of Tychus himself to kind of just kill everything around the hero units in the early game. And then as you get more and more mercs, you can kind of handle every single direction that the enemies could be coming from. You have the option, depending on the enemy comp, to steal units, which means they can't transmutate with...
Or wait for the transmutate.
The ghost.
Vega,
yes. The ghost person. think I saw a ghost. But anyways, yeah, everything's just really good. And if you do get a big hybrid wave, you can just go drop the Odin on it, nuke, not necessarily going to kill them, but then the Odin will. So, or you can just nuke them before they transmutate.
It's Sam.
Crazy thought. And Sam is really good against up to 3 hybrid as well. So as long as there's only 3, you're great. And honestly, his single target damage is actually just very good as well. So even if there's more than 3. So yeah, I think he's S tier.
All right, S tier for Tychus, second prestige, right?
I wasn't going to say anything extra anyway, to be completely honest, so yes.
Oh, sorry, Joni. What do you think?
No, genuinely, I have nothing to add. That is, yeah.
You'll have to forgive me. I'm on 3 hours of
He's got great
sleep.
splash damage.
Oh my Donnie.
Dude, I wasn't going to add anything useful. Like, he's S tier. It's as simple as that.
And Edwin destroyed me earlier with that comment about rough riding. Oh my Donnie. All right, Tychus. Moving on. Vorazun, where do we have him?
I'm hoping this isn't going to be a controversial take, but I think Vorazun's really good for this. She's got loads of sort of splash damage, and she's got the ability to make sure the enemy don't do any damage. So if you're playing the relatively conventional technique of using DTs and Corsairs, between the two of them, they do everything that's required. She's also got time stop, which I would suggest on this, using in a manner which is conservative enough that you are basically either using it to take out the early stage of a wave and then using your army to mop up, or using your army to take out the early stage of a wave if you're unsure as to sort of how your power level stacks against it, and then using time stop as a bit of a get out of jail free clause if you need to. But I think the reality to it is that actually between her pretty tried and tested unit comp and her top bars and the ability to spawn camp, etc., I think she's really good on this. I had her in A tier.
What do you think about A tier, Benhelm?
Yeah, I would agree. As painful as it is for me, I personally do not like Vorazun play, but I think it is pretty good here. Time stop can get you out of a world of trouble. DTs deal ridiculous damage, and they deal splash damage. And as long as you're not up against an air comp, you really don't need to make that many Corsairs, because again, you're not pushing and clearing bases, so there won't be that many air units to deal with. So I think she'll do pretty well. Yeah, had her in A tier.
First of all, third prestige, right? She has 1 prestige. Second of all,
yes.
What does she do against heavy air comps?
Just mass Corsair.
Wait for them
to,
wait for them to transport the ground unit. I don't know. My problem with Vorazun, especially against areas the 9-minute wave, the ones that start the side, because that's kind of when it starts falling apart for me, when both me and my ally are pushing on the wave. Because Vorazun's game starts at the mid game. If you go for Dark Temple and Corsair, and when the wave starts playing at 9 minutes, that's usually when I find problems with her. If my macro is not perfect, and spoiler alert, it usually is not. But again, if you're with an ally, I guess it's fine. Your ally can cover you for that one wave if you really need it. Then after that, it should be fine. But also, the third thing is time stop timings are 6-minute wave, 10-minute wave, 14-minute wave, 18-minute wave, and the last double hybrid wave. Those are the time stop timings. Any questions? Moving on. Oh wait, third prestige, obviously. A tier?
A tier, yep.
Moving on. Zagara, where do we have him?
Well, I sort of alluded to this earlier, but Zagara has some problems with having a lot of very small units, which are basically just free transmutations for the enemy. Now, you do have Banelings, which are great splash damage. You do have Bio Launchers, which are solid splash damage, and I had to mention them. And the rest of it's fine. Free units. Free units are good. Scourge are incredible against most air comps that aren't Corsairs. So as long as you have those, you should be fine. But overall, yeah, it's just the transmutation danger is definitely there. So I had her in D tier. I could see a little higher, but I had her in D.
What do you think, Joni?
Sort of got the illusory advantage on this in that if her units blow themselves up, they don't count towards transmutation. Plus, they will have blown up the thing they were blowing themselves up on, so it won't transmutate. The difficulty there is the fact that you will run out of steam incredibly quickly if your ally is simply not doing their job properly. Like ET said, bar launches on the ramps. Obviously, you don't even need to put them on the ramps, actually. You can put them on the little prongs of the temple if you're feeling fancy about it and give them a tiny bit more range. But still useful for additional splash. The biggest problem here is that if you are not microing incredibly carefully, regardless of whether it's a ground or an air comp, your suicide exploding units are going to be wasted impacting on something they're simply not doing any damage to. And that's where you go from being economically slightly challenged to simply not having the eco to support what you need. So hence why I had her in D tier as well. She is significantly more demanding to play than normal from a micro point of view, and that will have a direct impact on your economy, which for her in P1 is success or failure, basically. And I think P1 is probably the way to go on this.
So, yeah, huh?
Oh yeah. C tier's fine with me.
What happened? What happened?
Frankly, I'm not sure that video you showed me is real because you did the bonuses. So I think that might be edited.
AI generated.
Yeah, that was an AI video.
It is very true, CTG. You are normally pretty anti-bonus snap.
I am, but like, there's literally nothing else to do.
But yeah, I did wonder how that is. Like, well, yeah, watching you being awfully inefficient in terms of eco usage, etc. No,
I was floating like 600-800 minerals.
I think it's my perspective on this one is that I think all of these are around how good the commander is, like not how good the player can make the commander.
I don't know.
I think,
did you see my APM? I just parked Banelings where the enemies drop in because I know the map.
I don't think I've ever,
oh wait, you don't know how tall of an order knowing the map is for a lot of players.
Yeah.
Okay. Given that players don't know the maps, there are 3 spawn locations, and you can put Banelings and Scourge on all of them. Even if
that's true, but I mean, a lot of players don't even clear the map on a regular brutal. You know,
that's true. That's totally true.
But I mean, yeah, I could see C. I could even see B. Whatever Joni wants. You know.
I mean, I did originally have her a little bit higher, and I do get it. I think that I'm very happy to put her in C tier. I think what I would suggest is that I do think Zagara is she's probably more skill dependent, I would say, than a lot of commanders on the map this week.
I think there's just a certain gate that you have to clear. Like, you just need to be at that level where you full clear maps and you know spawn timings. You don't have to be like, let's say, a Diamond League player to be effective with Zagara. Of course, it's better, but you don't need to. You just need to know the map.
Yeah, I think if you're good with Zagara and you know the map, or even if you just know the map really well, if you like playing Zagara, you're probably.
I mean, we're assuming that you can lure with Abathur. Is it a tall order to ask players to full clear with Zagara?
That's true.
Yeah, this is true. But I'm happy to stick her in C tier. I'm fully appreciating that she does have a bit of a range on her, dependent on commander skill.
All right, C tier it is. So, right, moving on. Oh wait, prestige wise, what prestige are we recommending?
3. No, actually, no, 0. P0. Yeah, see what tier she's in when you play P0. Comment section. There you go.
All right, yeah. Let's let the comment section decide if P0 is a great one. Moving on, Zeratul. Where do we have him?
Zeratul is great because he's Zeratul. I do have a few caveats this week.
All right.
I think I was slightly more torn than that actually.
You said great.
I think so. He's my key concerns were getting splash damage done against air comps was the main one. Fully appreciating that his immortals are very good. His disruptors are exceptional for this mutator in terms of clearing stuff out, and his general damage output is superb. I don't think that mass turrets is the answer this, or mass cannons is the answer this week. I do think it's probably an army comp due to the versatility it offers you, probably still combined with his monolith for all of the obvious benefits that brings. But I was, because he is so often in S tier, I was trying to look at it in terms of why would he either remain in S tier or not be in S tier this week, really, which I appreciate maybe slightly reverse engineering the solution. But yeah, I wasn't as confident this week. I had him somewhere between S and A.
What do you think, Edmund?
Yeah, I do think his splash damage is basically just Zeratul himself. The disruptors take a little while to get up, and they're not perfect at splash damage. They tend to just hit whatever whatever's in the front. So I think that can be a little annoying. I think mass cannon is probably actually good enough. Just throw some like shield guards in there. You do have Zeratul himself to just kind of kite the attack wave up the way while hitting his spin as much as you can. And monoliths do deal splash damage, so that's pretty good. The Zealot wave with the High Templar can storm and deal splash damage. It's like, is Zeratul ever really not S is the question, and I'm not sure. I think he's probably still just S, because he's Zeratul. So I'd probably say S tier.
What do you think, Joni?
Yeah, I don't know. I sort of.
Would you rather be?
Is there anything E tier?
Would you rather be anyone else on A tier? Would you rather be anyone else on A tier instead of Zeratul?
So this is it. I think I'd rather be Abathur.
You'd rather be Abathur? Zeratul?
Well,
if you're putting him in A tier, we have a rule here. If it's not unanimous, it's not S tier. So if you don't agree, then we will put him in A tier.
I don't know. I'm sort of. I kind of like deep down because he's Zeratul. I know that he belongs in S tier.
Just the name recognition.
On this.
I mean, what I would do
against say to tip me over the air.
Your primary concern with Zeratul is anti-air splash, and I'm just thinking just demote him to a ground unit and then just use your regular splash. I don't know.
Yeah, there is that, isn't there? Work every time. Yeah, I don't know. I just the commanders that we've got in S tier are they so obviously belong in S. I genuinely.
The shield guard also has the reflect your damage back onto you thing. The Archon call down also has the oops, your high value it now belongs to me thing. I'm not sure.
Be honest, no one's using the shield guard ability.
I use it.
Nobody watching this is popping the shield guard ability. I use it every now and then, but I mean, I guess I think he's S, so you don't need to convince me.
Yeah, but the problem is if Joni's not convinced.
If it's yes. Yeah. I know. I think that the thing with the air comps is just like what's the concern? Like, would you if it wasn't a mutator, would you be concerned about air comps? Like the cannons will just kill the air comp, like it always does. You never need splash damage to kill an air comp. If anything, you have Zeratul jump underneath, spin, everything's half HP, and then the cannons finish it off.
And then they transmute.
Yeah, so I think, but it's that.
That you finish.
Yeah, but it's I think for me it's that thing of they can end up, particularly with sort of like Harriers, if you get one of the heavy carrier comp, heavy BC comp, etc.
So demoted.
They can transmutate very quickly.
But if they transmutate, aren't they getting less dangerous?
The carriers will not transmutate. Only the interceptors will.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, and then they become paperweights.
Sorry, you're right. But so it's sort of the Tempest comp actually, which is the problem because of the range of them as well. And I totally get Zeratul jumping in, spinning, doing some damage, etc. When you've got that combination of hybrid in there, like nothing takes vast quantities of damage very quickly, and those turrets do get whittled down eventually. They're not immune to taking damage.
How many artifact fragments do you get? Do you not get enough armor on them?
Oh, like plenty of them, but like you are if you're waiting Amon out this week, if you're looking to play a battle of attrition with him, I'm not saying that Zeratul's not better placed than most commanders to do so. I think you're going to have a tougher time of it than most this week. You know what? this may be one that I get destroyed in the comments section for, but I think I'm going to stick to my guns and keep him in A tier this week.
All right, it's not unanimous. It's not A tier.
There will be no transmutation, in my opinion.
All right, so there it is. Do we have a double S this week? Nah. Who's top of S tier?
No, not a double S, I don't think.
Who's top of S tier?
Probably Stetmann for me. Either that or Karax.
Yeah, Karax or Stetmann, but I think Stetmann's easier to execute than Karax.
All right, and then
Dehaka, and then Tychus.
All right, and then who's top of A tier?
Zeratul.
And then
Abathur.
Zeratul.
Joni, you just said you'd rather be Abathur than Zeratul. Now,
Yes, I know, but I'm not willing to throw myself at the mercy of the comment section to that extent. I'd rather.
Don't show weakness.
I'd rather flip.
Stick to your. You just literally said stick to your guns, and now you're folded to the comment section. Come on, stick to your guns.
He has cannons. There's no guns to stick to.
Exactly. I knew ET's funds would turn around to my rescue at some point.
I think Arcturus is
Oh my
probably the
God.
third best, and then Swann, and then Alarak.
Yeah,
Alarak, then Vorazun.
yeah, happy with that.
And I think Nova's better than Phoenix.
He's blonder than Phoenix.
Yeah,
Other
very
than Phoenix,
blonde.
yeah.
So C
I
tier.
think Zagara at the top of C tier, and then probably for me it's Stukov, but I think
Right in the
Johnny
middle
did
of it,
not like
yeah.
Stukov.
Sorry.
I'm sort of happy with it. I think Stukov's probably going to have. I think Kerrigan might have a better time of it than Stukov.
Well, that's fine. We can do Kerrigan then Stukov.
Yeah, it's already arranged that way, right?
Yeah.
All right. So D tier,
Yeah.
Raynor, E tier, Han, and Horner. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for watching. If you have an idea for it, also please leave it in a comment. I will see you guys next time.